Welcome everyone to today's virtual coffee encounter. I'm Amy Barlow, standing in for Rosalie Jerome today. She is out honoring Ray Teutsch at his Celebration of Life service. Today's encounter is dedicated to the memory of Ray Teutsch. He and his wife Jane sponsored our Exhibit 1 in the Holocaust Garden of Hope, and he leaves a legacy as an upstander and a great friend of the garden. Here at the Holocaust Remembrance Association, we are raising upstanders to end anti-Semitism and hatred against the Jewish people by sensitizing hearts to the issues of the Holocaust. We have many projects and events, including the Upstander Stone Project. We partner with Texas A&M to bring education about the Holocaust to Texas schools. We also are part of the Marches of Remembrance, and we have an upcoming Beauty for Ashes Luncheon and Restoring Hope Conference in November that we would love to have you join us for in person. You can find links for all of this in the chat. And it's not too late to invite your friends to today's encounter. There's a link for that in the chat also. Now I would like to turn today's event over to Dr. Susanna Kokanan. She is our educational advisor. She's an author, including the author of our Holocaust Garden of Hope. She's also the former director of Christian Friends of Yad Vashem, and she is the newly elected third vice chair of Finland's Christian Democratic Party. She's going to be introducing you to our very special guest today. So let's pick up our coffee cups and toast today's virtual coffee encounter, L'chaim, to life.
Thank you very much, Amy. I'm very happy to be here tonight and very honored to be meeting, as it is my first time with Mira Knei-Paz, the Holocaust survivor who is going to be sharing her story with us tonight. One of the core things, the very identity of this organization is the Holocaust and educating children and young people, of course adults too, but focusing on stories of children and young people during the Holocaust. And then we also offer lesson plans and other things so that we can ensure that this story is told, that people come to the garden where we have 3 exhibits already and we are building more. And they can come there with their school classes or their youth groups, and they can learn these stories that are very inspiring and come from all over Europe, what happened during the Holocaust. And tonight I am very honored to have with us Mira Knei-Paz. Actually, her story is really, to me, it feels that it's really unique, because her being born during the Holocaust was in itself a miracle that required very special courage from her mother. And then the fact that she lost her father in Auschwitz, and then the fact that she survived and was able to share that story with so many people afterwards. That's a miracle in itself. And I do not want to take from your time, Mira. I want to welcome you to this program. And I would just like to ask you if you could share, assuming that people have not heard your story, that you can just tell what actually happened. How were you born, and where does that story really begin? Thank you.
Well, my parents belonged to the Hungarian part of Yugoslavia. And when the Nazis came and conquered Hungary, they also conquered that part of Yugoslavia. So the fate of Hungarian Jews was similar to those from that part. And now my story is really a sort of sequence of miracles, which I myself, I wonder at each station of it, how it really came about. Well, the first thing is that when my father was taken away earlier, he was killed in Auschwitz, and my mother was 9 months pregnant when the Germans came. And they put all the inhabitants in the long rows in front of two trains. Now, it was a mere coincidence that my mother, with the group of her hometown people, they happened by chance to mount this train and not the other one, because the other one was going straight to Auschwitz. Now, the reason these people were not taken to Auschwitz, but to Austria, was because in Austria they needed, for their enormous farms, they needed workers to work their farms.
Yes.
So we were among the lucky ones who were sent to Austria for work in the fields. Well, this is one sort of mere chance, miracle number one, I would call it.
Yes.
Now, the second one is that when all those Jews were brought to the border of Austria, there was a very close inspection who would be suited for farm work. Now, your
Yeah.
mother was 8.5 months pregnant, and I don't know how did they ignore this fact, but she was put on in the list of the workers. So now in Austria, there were about 400, only in this part in Austria, there were about 400 farms like this, very big estates. And the Jews were divided into these various farms. And so we got to a place, I wasn't still alive, yeah, but my mother got to a place, a very big estate called Kassau, and she started to work in the fields. Now, one night, at the end of her pregnancy, she was about to give birth. So she lay down on the floor in that horse shed where the workers were held. And the story goes that it was a young dentist assistant and two old ladies who took care of the birth. I was born. My mother actually was already 42 years old by then, and it was the
Wow.
first child. So it's another
Yes.
wondrous story. And now the number, I don't know which number of miracle comes into the story, that it's quite ununderstand. Nobody can understand how come that the Gestapo didn't put this baby out. I mean, it wasn't exactly the thing that they planned to have babies in the camp.
Yeah.
So, but they did let my mother out to a field hospital which was nearby. And there, probably the people were really nice people. They told her to go with me to the Vienna Children's Hospital, which was fairly far away, but she got there. And actually, they kept me there in this hospital for my first year of life. So
Wow.
actually, we were released from that hospital. I was born in June 44, and we were released in January 45. And then my mother went back to our hometown in Yugoslavia that time. And she realized that my father, her husband are gone, and the major part of her family and my father's family. So actually, she was left alone with me as a small child. And when I was 4 years old, she decided to immigrate to Israel. And there, a new story starts, but it wasn't easy either. It was a time of shortage of food, the very new country. So it wasn't easy either. But this is a second chapter of my upbringing.
Wow, that's that story is just, it's unbelievable. So let me clarify for people to understand. When you were in the hospital, did they know that you were Jewish?
Well, actually, which is another thing which I don't now know till nowadays how come this hospital existed at all.
Exactly.
And secondly, how come that it was the way Jewish children and non-Jewish children together? So I really don't know how did it come about that this hospital was there. And gradually it became not only that it existed, but gradually it became a safety place for children. So many children, I mean, I don't know if many, but children came there from different camps, small
Mhm.
children, not as small as I was, but different
Yes. Mhm.
toddlers, and they were all kept there until the end of the war. So this is something, I didn't go into it, which is
Yes.
now that you ask me, maybe I should I should find out how come that this hospital was still there. Now the other thing that since I was very, very tiny and very weak, I got
Mhm.
all the children's diseases there. I had a lung consumption with both lungs. I had a
Wow.
heavy ear infection, and there was no
Yes.
antibiotics there. So
Mhm.
actually, since the age of a very small baby, I
Yeah.
hear on one ear only. I'm used to
I
it. I
see.
have a very good hearing, so nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
But ever since I lost the hearing on one ear, but on
Mhm.
the whole, I developed well, as you can see.
Mhm. So, do you know, you mentioned at the beginning that your father was taken to Auschwitz earlier. Do you know more about his story? What happened to him and which year that might have been?
Well, actually, it was also at the 44 because
Mhm.
the Hungarian Jewry wasn't persecuted except by
Yeah.
the Hungarian police itself, where they were quite anti-Semitic.
Yes.
But the Eichmann, the famous Eichmann,
Yeah.
he came in, I think, March 44. And
Yes,
he
that's
did a
right.
very, very good, very bad job about it.
Yeah.
The largest population after Poland of Jews was exterminated in Hungary within
Mhm.
3 or 4 months altogether. So
Yeah,
it
that's true.
must have been when my father was deported, it must have been March or April, the latest.
Yes. Mhm. And when he was deported, were there other family members, like siblings of your father or mother that were also deported? What happened to the whole family?
Well, actually, most of them were deported. None of them,
Yes.
except for one brother of my mother, and and from my father's side, and one brother. They stayed alive, but the entire family, parents, sisters, brothers, they were
Yes.
all ended their life in Auschwitz.
Mm. So, do you have family members alive, who were from that period, or
Well, I have one uncle from my
Mm.
mother's side who
Mm.
left Hungary much earlier, before the war started.
Yes.
He emigrated to France. So
Yes.
I used to go there as a child, and I knew him quite well, him
Yeah.
and his family. And
Yeah.
on my mother's side, there was also one brother who I don't
Yes.
know exactly how did he escape or whatever happened to him, but he
Yeah.
landed in Israel. So
Mm.
I knew him as well. And
Mm.
I have a few cousins uh,
Yes.
from my father's side, and that's about it.
Yes.
No, no.
So I'm wondering, after the war, when the war ended, um, did you make your way back to where you had been living before the war? Did you go from Austria to Hungary back to your old house or?
Yes, we did. Um, my father was a very, very wealthy man. We had a very big, almost palace, a big house, and
Yes,
we went back. And I was the only child, the people, when they saw my mother with a little baby on her lap, they couldn't believe it because
yeah,
it was really quite. And then she decided to actually. I had half a brother and sister from my father's part who was a widower when he married my mother. So
yes,
I'm the only child to my mother, but I had
yes,
a sister and a brother. And we lived together, but they remained in later, after the war. There's a very big age gap between us, so they stayed in Yugoslavia and started their academic studies. So it was only myself and my mother who came to Israel into, shacks. There was nothing here. There were no dwelling, and uh,
yeah,
so my mother actually, what she did, she put me in a children's house, which wasn't very easy, at the age of 4 to be without a father. I never knew my father anyway, but to be also without my mother. She wanted for me to have better conditions because she lived really in a very poor circumstances. Most of the Jewish people who came to Israel in those years, they had very poor living conditions. So I spent there, my mother used to come and visit me, but for me it was a very long interval. If she told me I'll come twice a week, I had no idea what twice a week means. So this then we started traveling to my uncle in France and to some good
mhm,
friends of my mother in England, and to try and rescue some of my father's money from before the war. So
yes,
I went to
mhm.
Switzerland. So I had a grand tour with all with people I didn't know, languages I didn't speak. So,
Wow,
and by the time we came back to Israel, it was already the middle of first grade, and I forgot my
yes,
Hebrew from the age of 4. So eventually, at the age of 6, I knew about 5, 6 languages because I picked them up as we went along to all these
yeah, yes,
various places.
yes. So you have actually published a book that contains stories of child survivors, and you are really an example of a child survivor because your story is so unique and so, like you say, it's full of miracles. You are a miracle child. So could you talk a little bit about how how did you meet these other child survivors, and what do you think? How is it different to be a child survivor? Like, could you tell us a little bit about the meaning of that uh, identity?
Well, I'll show you the book and I'll say a few words about it. Can you see it?
Mhm. Yes, thank you. We
It's
can see
not
it.
me on the picture. It's another girl.
Mhm.
But before I tell you a little bit more about it, because it's a very important project, I think. There's one thing that people may not be aware of. We, the children of Holocaust, if I may
Yes,
call this group like this, the parents didn't tell us about what happened to us, what happened to the families. They wanted to raise us anew with no past, no tragedies, and it it took a price because
Yeah.
many of my generation or a bit younger, they know very little about their own history. You know, about my father, David, who perished in the Holocaust, I know very little. I was lucky to eventually find a notebook that he wrote, and
Yes.
it was in German because that was the language of the cultural status. So I
Yeah.
asked someone to translate it to me. So that's the way I learned about my own father. About all the aunts and uncles, practically nothing. And this was a common phenomena with many,
Yes.
in many houses. You know,
Yeah.
we could feel the anguish, the sadness, but not a word said. So it wasn't a very, in this respect, it wasn't a very healthy atmosphere to grow in. And
Yes.
this is something which is important, you know, to this point is important to make because it's really tragic, you know, that afterwards when the parents are gone already, our generation is trying to find the roots. Actually, it's our roots. So they go
Yes.
to different institutions, you know, Yad Vashem in Israel,
Yes.
main archive of Holocaust. And in various ways, they are trying to fill in the gap. But
Yeah.
basically, it's a big gap. So
Yes.
I would say that I've built my entire life on this gap. You know, I had to skip it in order to live my normal life because
Wow.
it's not something that is really breachable. So now I come to the book and the group. Okay, I'll take it.
Yes, please.
Well, there are a number of institutions in Israel for Holocaust survivors, or now it's more second and third generations. So I happened to join a group of Holocaust survivors, and we had a workshop there about the Holocaust, about, you know, all what we miss, all what
Yes.
whatever we feel like writing about. It was a writing group.
Yes.
So we did it for, there were maybe 12 people in the group, and we did
Mm-hmm.
it for 5.5 years every week. And a great deal of material was gathered, was written by these people.
Yes.
So since I have literary inclinations, I said, listen, this is important material. We shouldn't just leave it. We should make something out of it. So
Yes.
the group told me, listen, if you want to, we have no objection. So I
Mm.
set out to, I worked on the whole, editing the book and putting it together and finding
Yes.
the budget to publish it. And we had a very respectable inauguration with music and all that. I did it all single-handedly. It took me about 6 years, but I'm not
Wow.
sorry about it because it's really very, very moving stories. Everybody is his story, and it's a really collection of people from different places and different stories of survival. There are 8 people in the book, and just to give you an idea how varied it is, two were already 13 and 14 years old, so, and they survived Auschwitz. Uh,
Wow.
One of them from Poland, these two were from Hungary. One of them from Poland, she was hidden by a family in the country.
Yes.
And it wasn't a simple thing because, you know, whenever the Gestapo came, she was 9 years old altogether. Whenever the
Yes.
Gestapo came, she was sent to the fields, and maybe a few days she spent alone either in a well, practically in a well
Yes.
to be hidden, or walking around in the woods. And she was always afraid that she will be that people will
like denounce her.
yeah, send her in.
Yeah,
So she did all kinds of tricks, you know. A 9 years old girl, she said that her parents hid some golden coins in her shoes. So the family took the shoes to the shoemaker and they put it apart. Took the shoes apart, and eventually, of course, there was nothing there. But the family said it's probably the shoemaker stole it.
oh,
You know, it's from one there were really dramatic stories within this high.
yes,
I won't tell about all of them, but another girl, age 4, she was hidden in the quarters, in the building of the quarters of the Gestapo itself. She was
yes,
living with a family on the bottom floor, and the Gestapo was somewhere upward. And she came across them. Somebody from the Gestapo apartment came out when she was
yes,
taking laundry to the attic. And she
yeah,
was clever enough, 4-year-old girl, not to say a word, just normally to pass by, you know, instead of.
mm, yeah,
And incredible stories and beautifully told because it's the people themselves who told them. I
yeah,
completed my part, you know. I couldn't tell much about my childhood because I was just born, but I had quite a number of stories of how I grew up, you know, in Israel, a small child without father, and I was sent by my mother to various friends of hers because it was very difficult for her. She was heavily traumatized with all what happened to
yes,
her. So she used to send me to different families, which they were very nice, but what did I have together with them? Nothing in common. So this is about the book. It's a little bit about my further growing up, upbringing, like.
yeah. Mm. So with the child survivors, what connects them? Do you believe that it's this feeling that their childhood was different because there was something hidden about their past? Is that what connects the survivors, child survivors?
I think
Uh,
it's both of the things. First of all, you know, we all grew up. None of the, in no case, two of the parents survived. So
yeah,
sometimes there are no parents at all, or mostly in this book, it's mostly the mother who survived.
I
So,
see. Mm,
so with this void which you grew up with, and the fact you don't have a father, so and all the past, obviously
yes.
it connects between people. And but the other, what was the second thing you mentioned? One was.
I, yeah, I was just trying to understand what did you feel was the most connecting thing between the child survivors, the this unique identity, to be a child survivor. But if there's anything that you want to tell us about,
Yes,
more
I
about it,
remember
we have
the
time,
second.
so we can still.
I remember the second part. You know, I know it from myself, and it's very common to all the people I know who were child survivors. You know, we hid it. We were
Yes,
ashamed of the fact that we are coming from the Holocaust, you know, from the Shoah, and we did our
mm,
utmost to become like all the Israeli children. And
yes,
you know, many of us child survivors were very distinguished in excelled in what they did. You know,
yes,
um, could it professors or army high ranks or you know.
yes,
I didn't do anything very special, but I was always a very good student, and I always
mm,
want to, bring happiness to my mother. So I felt a
yeah,
sort of a mission that I have to
yes,
excel, and I did. You know, I
yeah.
was a very good student, a lovely dancer. I played the violin. I did everything, and
Mm, I understand. Yeah,
yeah.
because and you, yeah, I understand. It must have been very, very very difficult, to, to find your place with the other children who came from a different background. We all know that children are very sensitive to something different. So I understand what you are saying, and I think this is so much to take in, because it's a lot of, I'm sure, a lot of new things for everybody. So let me just say at this point that there is a possibility to ask questions. So if you are a participant, if you can put your question in the chat, I'm going to read it, and then Mira Knei-Paz will be answering those questions. So feel free to submit your questions in the chat box. So I am going to keep an eye on the chat box to see if anybody has a question. But Mira, is there anything else that you would like to, say? People who are participating in these events are very interested in the Holocaust, and they are very interested in the work that we are doing to preserve the memory and to tell the stories, especially of young people and children during the Holocaust. So if you have anything that you would like to conclude with, please feel free.
Well, I'll tell you what, my conclusion, or may be a bit surprising, but I think that people who went through such atrocities and the Holocaust, and they should behave more humanly toward the other. So I'm not talking about Gaza, which is a terrible issue by itself, but also in Israel. We have 20% of the Israeli population are Arabs. And
Yes.
the way they are treated in this country is really not good. And I think that, as people who suffered so much, we should be more human. And this is personally, this is my message to as a Holocaust survivor.
Well, I think we all, ultimately we all would like to see the world a better place than it is. And I know I had a survivor friend who passed away, but she was a child survivor as well, but she lived in the States, and she always told me that her thought that she wanted to pass on was that we have to leave the world a better place than it was when we were born.
Yes,
So
I think when still living, we can do a lot in this respect. We don't have to wait until we pass away. There's so much to do in this respect,
yes,
to
there
be
is.
human, to be considerate, to be empathic. This should be, in my belief, this should be our lesson,
Aim.
our
Yes.
heritage.
So let me ask Amy. Amy, would you like to come online, and do you have anything that you would like to ask? Because I'm not sure if
don't
we
have
have.
any questions, but I wanted to reassure our guests. So Mira's beautiful book is in Hebrew right now, and I know Rosalie is going to be working with Mira to get it translated and published, so that those of you that are listening and people that you know will be able to read it in English, unless you read Hebrew.
And we have one question here. And this person is saying, thank you very much, Mira. I am deeply moved. What did you choose as a profession later on? And did your choice of profession have a connection to your identity as a child survivor?
Well, thank you for the question. I can't find really a connection between my profession and the fact that I'm a child survivor. I think that for many years I really oppressed it, because I really wanted to be like all the other children. And
Yes.
Since my mother didn't tell me much, so it was easy to sort of in a way, ignore my past and go to different fields. So
Yes,
actually, I was a television producer of the
yes.
main first channel, and I did it for 33 years, and different programs. I especially I like to do the youth programs, which went very well. I also engage in literature. I am a literary critic and I write about books. I do
Yes.
some editing. My hobby is acting, so I'm going to
Mhm.
acting school. I'm probably the oldest there, but I don't care at all. And I have one lovely daughter and three fantastic grandchildren. They are big now, it's 28, 26, but we're very close. And so far, so good.
Wonderful. Anybody else have a question? Feel free to submit it. People are saying thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
I think sometimes it's really hard to know what to ask because you are overwhelmed by somebody's story and it's hard to make a question at that moment. So that's
No, you did
probably
very
my
well. Yeah, you did very well.
yeah.
I hope I gave you some kind of a picture. I don't know because when I speak, I don't hear myself, so I don't know. Maybe later, if I get a recording, I'll be able to say, "Oh my goodness!" But I hope it went well and people got some idea of my life and being a baby survivor. I hope so.
Thank you so much. Yes, I believe they did. And I think it's very important for us that we have as our focus the Holocaust, that we hear from people who come from that time as long as it's possible, and, to hear an authentic story. And yours is a miracle story, so it's very
I
special to
agree.
us.
I
So,
definitely agree. Yes, it is
yeah,
really very unique. That's why also I'm relatively younger than the other child survivors because they were, maybe three,
yeah.
10, 12, and as a baby, I have the advantage of being the youngest.
Well, we have a second question. I will want to ask this one. Where does your strength come from to share your story?
Well, thank you for the question. Well, for years, I didn't tell my story. For many years, as I said earlier, myself as the other group, the group of the survivors, the children survivors, we were ashamed of it because
Yeah,
how come we come from such a horrible background where people here, grow up and go to school and everything is
yeah,
normal. Actually, I started it, I think, when my granddaughters asked me whether I would come to the school to tell my story. And this
yeah,
I could not resist. And since there are three and different classes, so I went a number of times, first to each and every one of them, and later when they went to different schools and I had to go again to the other schools. So I think, and there what I really liked um, I didn't find it difficult to tell the story because I had a very attentive and feeling with audience. So
yes,
actually, in a way, it made it easier for me because they were so really interested and and afterwards they came to me and said, "Wow, what a story!" And some of them were
mm,
in the lower classes. And it
yeah,
really gave me strength. And later I started doing it in different schools, regardless to my granddaughter. And
mm,
again, I really like the part of questions, when I know my story. So I tell it again, but I do it willingly, but I'm more interested in hearing the reactions, the questions.
yes,
And this really gives me strength. I never realized because when I wasn't telling about it, and I felt, so alone, secluded in my story, and no one to share it with. It was much more difficult than since I started telling it.
Yes, thank you. And there is a comment here. Thank you for your amazing survival. My parents were also survivors. May they rest in peace.
Amen, you say for that,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Thank,
I never knew my grandparents, and my mother passed away about 10 years ago. And
yes,
actually, an episode, I don't know if you call it episode, but interesting thing is that my
yes.
mother remarried when I was about 9, 10 years old with an
Mhm.
Auschwitz survivor who lost his daughter and wife in the Holocaust,
Wow.
and I really loved him. I really we were in very very good terms, and it's sort
Yes,
of irony of history because he got sort of not back, but he got again a wife and a daughter, and I got my mother got a husband and I got a father, so it was
yes.
very very unique reunion.
Mm. So one of our docents, the people who are guiding in the Holocaust Garden of Hope, is asking, what do you think is the most important thing they should share when they are doing the tour of the Children's Garden of Hope?
What would they share? Sorry, what should they share in?
Yeah, this is a little
No, okay, I didn't hear it.
Yes, they are actually asking what is the most important thing that they should share when they are guiding in the Holocaust Garden of Hope. They are talking about children and youth during the Holocaust. If you have something that you want to,
No, I'm not sure I understand the question. What should they share when they are in
when
hiding?
they are guiding,
When they are
guiding in
hiding,
the Holocaust Garden of Hope.
what should be the hope for the children who are hiding in the
So we have this Holocaust Garden of Hope. It's like exhibit
yeah, Garden
about
of Hope.
children and young people, and they are asking, what do you think would be the most important thing that they can tell the visitors when they, when they
Tell
take
the
them
people who
around?
come to the garden, you mean?
Yes, yeah.
Well, what would they? I really, I don't know. They
I think probably you need to see the place to be able to
well,
answer that
actually,
question.
Leslie, right?
Rosalie.
She showed me on video. It's a beautiful garden. I could say
Yes,
I could get an impression.
yeah,
What? I don't know. I think the main lesson would be to be very alert to it. That nothing like this again should happen.
yeah,
Everyone in his own quarter, the little garden, the little
yeah.
because these things, the Holocaust didn't start broke up in one day.
No,
It's always small things that gather and become bigger and bigger, and I think this is the main moral and lesson. To just to be
yeah, the steps
alert
that
how you
happen.
treat your neighbor, how you treat a disabled man, how you treat handicaps, just to be.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
absolutely.
this is the main, because to remember just for the sake of remembrance, it doesn't mean much. You have to
Yeah.
remember for a certain cause.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I agree with you totally that we remember, but we need to internalize the lessons, for we are responsible for the world where we are living in now. And that's, yes, absolutely. So I want to thank you for your amazing, amazing testimony. And I'm going to hand over to Amy, and then you will conclude the meeting.
Is there a way to see the participants? I don't, is there a way to open the screen so I can see, or it's not possible? No, okay, no problem. It's okay. I can imagine the people
Yes.
in
But
my mind.
we have 15 people that listen to your story today, and then it will be
Fif-
recorded. Yes,
50?
15.
15.
Yes.
Well, thank them on my behalf. Thank you very much, audience.
So
Okay.
thank you very much, Dr. Kokonan, and thank you very much, Mira, for having the courage to share your story with us. We're thanking your granddaughters for starting you and sharing your story. And thank you very much to our participants today. The next virtual coffee encounter will be the third Wednesday in October, which is October 15th. And if you'll keep an eye on your email and on our website, you will find that information there. Thank you again for joining us today. And let's lift our cups one last time. Here's to sensitizing hearts to the issues of the Holocaust. L'chaim, to life. Shalom.
Thank you all. Thank you, Susanna. Thank you, Amy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mira.
Thank the people who were listening and asking questions. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mira.
תודה רבה, תודה רבה
תודה
וחג
רבה.
שמח, שנה
חג
טובה.
שמח, שנה טובה.